So what are some practical tips for getting designated? One question that sponsors frequently ask is, when should I submit my request for orphan designation? The answer is, as soon as the criteria are met. In other words, as soon as the medical or scientific rationale and prevalence criteria are met. If the sponsor has supporting non-clinical and/or clinical efficacy data to support the scientific rationale for their drug product for the prevention, diagnosis, or treatment of a rare disease or condition, and the prevalence of the rare disease is less than 200,000, then an orphan drug designation request may be submitted to the OOPD at any point during drug development prior to marketing application submission. To capitalize on the incentives and benefits of the Orphan Drug Act, particularly the tax credits for qualified clinical trial expenditures, it is recommended that sponsors request orphan drug designation as early as possible during preclinical development. Depending on the volume of supporting data, the orphan designation request is typically about 22 to 30 pages. Key aspects of the application include the following: a description of the rare disease or indication for which designation is being requested. This is an overview of the disease definition, etiology, clinical presentation, signs and symptoms, diagnostic methodologies, and current therapies. The need for therapy section describes limitations in current therapies and highlights unmet needs in treatment. A brief description of the drug, specifically the active moiety or pharmaceutical ingredient or principal molecular structure and its mechanism of action in the disease. The scientific rationale, which will be described in more detail shortly. Indication of any disease subsets of non-rare diseases and clinical superiority to previously approved same drugs. And the prevalence estimate, which will also be further described shortly. The scientific rationale and the determination of the prevalence estimate are the two most important aspects of orphan drug designation requests. Some sponsors may submit orphan drug designation requests one of four ways: through the CDER NextGen portal, by emailing the required information to the OOPD mailbox. Please note that this email method was made available only because of the COVID-19 pandemic. Another method for submitting is via the FDA Form 4035 or by mailing the submission to OOPD on a CD-ROM using a tracked method such as Federal Express. The components of the orphan drug designation submission must include the following: cover letter, US agent letter, if the sponsor is an international sponsor that is based outside the United States, self-certification letter to indicate that the sponsor has not previously received a marketing authorization for the same active moiety for the same rare disease, the orphan drug application itself, and all cited references. The OOPD accepts designation requests on a rolling basis.